Please, sir, during Transfiguration with Moses and Elijah, since they were in Hades waiting for the resurrection, how is it that they were able to appear to Jesus?
It was a vision. Simple. That's what happened on the Mount of Transfiguration. It was a vision. It was not a physical appearance.
It was the vision.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Pastor Damina. Thank you for flooding my understanding with light and clarity. I'm grateful for your labor over me. In your teaching on the New and Old Covenant, you said the Old was retired by the New, Hebrews 8:13. We can recall that in the epistles, Peter caused the death of Ananias and Sapphira because he was still transitioning from the Old Testament. Does it mean that in today's jurisdiction, we still have the Old and the New walking hand in hand? Because we can see it displayed even today in most Christian churches.
Well, they are not walking hand in hand because the New has retired the Old. However, there are preachers who are still preaching from Mount Sinai, and there are pastors who are still ministering from Mount Sinai. And when you minister from Mount Sinai, you create room, you give room for the devil to use the operations of Mount Sinai to bring people under condemnation, bondage, and destruction.
Of all the people who lived on the earth, from Adam to the resurrection of Jesus, how were the saints who rose with Jesus chosen?
By faith in the promise that was given from the beginning of the world. That promise was communicated to Adam, communicated to every dispensation right until the coming of Jesus. So faith in that promise, in types, shadows, prophecies, and promises, was a qualifier, which is still the same thing today. It's just that today it is communicated in a message of his resurrection.
Still from B. Adeyemi in Lagos, Nigeria, will those who will be born after the rapture be exempted from the travails of those left behind?
There is nobody that will be born after the rapture. The rapture is the end of the world, because if you read the scriptures, rapture and judgment, there's nobody after the rapture.
In 1 John chapter 5, verses 16-17, we read that there is sin leading to death, and there is sin not leading to death. Are there sins a person can commit that will not earn the penalty of eternal death, and other sins that will? What is the meaning of this perplexing passage?
Sin to death is unbelief. When you do not believe in what Christ has done, he that believeth not is condemned already. Sin not unto death are offenses or wrongs that you do against relationships with one another. Those are sins that are not unto death. That's why a brother is admonished by the word of God to forgive you, walking in love. He said, if your brother has aught against you, he said, you go to him. Go to him. You are the one offended, but the Bible recommends. Jesus said, you that is offended, go to the person who offended you and make peace with him. So again, sin not unto death will be interpersonal relationships and things that happens within humanity. And don't forget, every other sin, Jesus paid for it where God is concerned.
Okay, this one is an SMS. It's a very longish one, but I'll try and take them as I see them. It says, do I need to pray to bless my food or child or car, etc.? There is a reason I asked that. You said God doesn't notice our fast, that we fast to ourselves. So we fast to help ourselves. However, you also said we can fast for someone, especially our pastors, if they are going in error. Is the fast then necessary when God doesn't notice it? And it's not our fast that can change the person?
Well, I didn't say you fast for people. I only said you pray for people, pastors and people, you pray for them. However, fasting helps you that is fasting. It helps your intensity, it helps your focus, and it helps your ability to take delivery of what is yours. That's what fasting does. That's why I say fasting is a self-help fasting. Now, do you pray for your food before you eat it? The word of God says that food is received with thanksgiving and prayer. You receive your food with thanksgiving and prayer. So when food is set before you, you give thanks and you eat it. You give thanks. You don't bind demons and cast out devils from food. No, you give thanks to God for the food and you eat it by faith.
Okay, Papa, still from that anonymous SMS, you said God wanted to talk with the children of Israel and make them kings and priests, but they refused and asked Moses to be their mediator. Does that mean that Moses actually had a discussion with God, bearing in mind that no one has seen God or heard his voice or seen his form?
Moses didn't have a discussion with God like a discussion. Moses was communicated to by God through mediums. If you observe Hebrews chapter 1, at sundry times, in diverse manners, in diverse manners, the prophet spoke to the fathers. The prophets spoke to the fathers. So it was communication through mediums like visions, like dreams, like prophecy.
I have two questions today. Romans 12:19. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. I understand God will never bring punishment on people. Can you explain what this verse means?
Well, if you read the pretext and the post-text, he now said, if your enemy is hungry, give him food to eat. That's what he was explaining. So when he says vengeance is mine, what God is saying is, I will take vengeance on myself. I will take vengeance on myself. That is forgiveness. So now he went further in the post-text to explain, when your enemy is hungry, feed him. So what God is simply saying is forgiveness for anybody who hates you or anybody who doesn't like you.